live. Holy shit, 9-month hiatus. We're back. This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
And I'm Dan.
Well, man.
So what the hell have we been doing for the last 9 months?
Getting busy.
Well, it's always getting busy. I have been doing quite a bit here at the bank. Let's see. In the meantime, pen tests, patch management, PCI certification, patch management, and patch management. Which kind of brings us into one of the topics we're going to talk about, Equifax, because what do they not do? Patch management. How about you, Ninja? What have you been up to for the last 9 months?
Well, man, I don't even know where to start, dude. I don't even know where to start. Man, started a research institute. Got a nice fat grant to work on brain interface.
Nice.
Computing. Hold on, man. What the fuck is going on here? So this shit is playing back in my ear as we're talking. It's driving me crazy. Fuck this. Hold on, I gotta fix this shit, man, because it's driving me nuts. Like you're talking in my ear as I'm talking, and it's just too much Dan. Hold on. It never did that before. Which, by the way, in case anybody hasn't figured it out, this shit doesn't work in Firefox anymore. Oops.
I'm checking out from the phone to see if it's actually showing. Oh, it's definitely showing live.
Oh, yeah. No, we're live.
It's a good thing we're not like technologists.
Yeah, I know. We always say that, right?
Yeah, well, while you're trying to fix it, I'll go off on
go ahead.
Some other things. So we'll start with PCI. This is just another one of these things that are out there that absolutely is garbage, in my opinion. It's a compliance framework that is so easily bypassed. And we'll say, and I can't think of a better word at the moment. And here's what I mean by that. You could take any of these breaches that have occurred. Every single one of them are PCI certified, PCI validated. It doesn't matter if it's a merchant or the issuers. And that doesn't even get into account for when we start talking about things like Equifax. It's a point in time. What good is it for a company to go and get PCI validation, get their AOC, get their ROC, all this kind of fun stuff, and then forget about it for the next 11 months? Because that's how I feel a lot of companies do this. They wind up getting their certification, and then they're like, yep, cool, no problem. And then they'll wait for the QSA to come back in a year later, go through the process, and then get all their stuff ready to go, because you've got, 60 days or something like that after they come in to remediate everything. And that's when they actually work. When are we going to start actually doing security? But for the simple fact of, we don't want our brand to be tarnished. We actually want to prevent our customers from being compromised. I just don't get it. I don't know why. It's not that difficult. Update your documentation. Actually do what you're supposed to do. Oh, I had an auditor actually to ask me, why am I doing more than one scan a quarter? Why am I doing it once a week? Well, because that's what I want. Because I want to know every week, because it might take me that long for my team to go through 4,000 hosts.
Yeah, well, and that's, I agree, man. All the years I did compliance, whether it was SOX or, industry specific or PCI, in particular, and we've talked about this before. I think it's a snapshot in time. And that's what you're attesting to, is that in this state, these controls were met or weren't met, or whatever the case is, right? With PCI, you have to meet them all, or you're not passing.
Yeah, it's pass-fail.
So on top of that, though, I don't necessarily have a problem with that part of it so much, as because that's really liability. So let's not call it compliance. Let's call it liability.
Yeah, sure. That works.
Yeah. The problem I have is that those frameworks actually de-incentivize being progressive with technology, because the more controls you actually try to have, like you were just talking about, and you try to get a pulse of your environment, it's actually counterproductive to the potential breaches in compliance you have. Not the breaches in actual security, but a control fails for a couple of days, right? And it takes you a couple of days to fix it. That could be a material finding for an auditor, when for you were just trying to get a pulse check. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
think regulation can be counterproductive to being progressive with technology, particularly in cyber.
completely agree. There, there are ways in which any organization can handle um, progressing their technology, evolving the cybersecurity defenses in order to be able to, always stop the evolving threat, right? The threat is always going to be evolving. It does not matter, because people are going to continuously, try to find flaws in software. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, that's part of the thing where, when this auditor was asking me, and this was not a part of PCI audit, this was our annual audit. And he was like, why are you doing more than what is required? Because I need to know. I need to have a constant pulse on the enterprise in which I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
Well, why? What does that matter? Because that's what I want to do, because I don't know, I feel that's the best way. I'm not answering the question anymore. I'm doing it once a week because that's the program in which I have built and put in place. If the Department of Defense can touch every IP address once a week, pretty sure, a small little enterprise like mine can do it as well. And it was just enough, done.
Yeah, well, two things. One, I got the echo fixed. I fucked up and didn't realize that I actually had the channel page open in the background, so it was playing live. What a fucking moron. What are you going to do, man? Hey, it worked. It sounded good. We
Yeah.
look good.
Hey, it's really funny. We should get into that. Neither one of us coordinated as to how we're going to be wearing. We're both wearing the hat, and we're both wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Well,
I
man,
mean,
birds of a feather, dude.
yeah. I almost was going to grow out the beard a little bit more again. But right now it is wintertime. But
don't do it.
Yeah, I think I might have more gray in my beard than what you do.
I don't know, man. Dude, look at this shit. Well,
I know.
Let me tell you something, man. You see all this gray? That
Yeah.
came in last night. I took Marsha to Disneyland, just the two of us, because we don't get to go very often, just the two of us.
Right.
And the last two times we've done this, man, she tricks me into going on these fucked up roller coaster rides, and I don't know what they are because I don't go. You know what I mean? And I'm like not real cool with like gravity drops and heights and shit. And I always tell her, listen, I don't like heights, but I really don't like free falling. Like I really don't like that sensation. It really stresses me out. And she's like, let's go on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. I'm like, well, what the fuck is this shit? Because it's this giant tower. And I'm like, is this one of those things where like you go up and it just drops you? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, listen, I've done that before and I don't like it, but I'll do it one time to see what it's like. And she's like, it's not even as bad as that. Listen, man, I don't know if you've ever done one of those like gravity free fall drops.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. That's what and then I got tricked because we go in and it's like the collector's museum from Guardians of the Galaxy, right? It's really cool. All this stuff. There's movies playing and it's really cool. And then I'm like, so there's like 4 of us strapped into this thing, right? And she's like, no, it's a room full of people. Well, if you've ever been to Disney, when you have a room full of people on a ride, it's usually like just an immersive ride and they're fun as hell. So I'm thinking, well, this is probably less than that. Nope, wrong. This fucker shoots up. Like right off the bat, instead of dropping, it goes up. Like, all right, like a G sled. And right at that moment, I'm like, dude, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is not what I thought it was. And then this fucker for 2.5 minutes goes up and down. And you're like free falling, dropping, free. Listen, man, I was done. I told her I'm never going again. Fuck you. That's it, man. So that's where like all this new gray came from.
She set you up.
Yeah, I'm like, you begged me to go. And so I get an annual pass and I'm digging it and we're having fun and we take the kids and stuff. And like, do you not want me to go anymore? Is this your way of breaking up with me? Like, you know,
that's how she's going to kill you. She's going to wind up making you go on those rides constantly and never let you off.
No, listen, man. Now I don't know what I was thinking before, but now I am thinking. I'm researching that shit. before we go anywhere. I'm going to know exactly what happened.
I want to know every single ride.
Well, so here's the other thing that was going on. I was
I
going to
want a
mention
detailed
too.
itinerary.
Yeah, right. Is you guys can see the moving boxes because we're moving next month. I'm gone. I'll be in North Carolina. So the great thing about that is we live out
Finally to the best coast.
That's right. Back to our origins. Now, my wife grew up there. I didn't. I grew up in the Northeast as a Yankee, which is the best East.
True.
Yeah, East is better than West for sure, because this place is either going to burn down or fall off into the ocean. I don't know which, but I'm out.
Hey, they made it past their first round to break into 3 states again.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, dude. Dude, I don't get me started. We'll do a political podcast for California next week, but
I just got to say, there's no way it can go into 3 states because 53 stars doesn't look correct on the flag. So,
it would be a sovereign country, man. I mean, no, let's not get this twisted. If that passes, I don't think the intent is ever to become another state in the union. It's to be its own independent sovereign nation. I mean, that's what I would do if I was in control, but I'm not going to run this state. I'm going to go run North Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, so
back to compliance.
About this research institute that you got going on. I mean, I know about it, but you know, our fans out there don't know a whole lot.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, man, I started getting into this research space for containment of artificial intelligence. So actually developing the underlying structures, the theoretical structures and frameworks necessary to contain a general intelligence. The long and short of it is nobody's built one yet that I know of, first of all, because it doesn't exist. But there's not a lot of research in that area. So it's very nascent. It's very new. It's very cutting edge in ways that even the AI research isn't at that cutting edge either. Right. Because going back to compliance, right. And this is what I was going to tie together. You and I, and actually with John Callis had talked before about this concept of, defenders actually always have the advantage because you're a step ahead. And as long as you maintain that time advantage, not that you're not going to have problems, but you can severely limit the scope of your issues as long as you maintain that time advantage. So you have to be fast. The same thing holds with this research. So anyway, over the last couple of years, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but it's official. You can refer to the university we both share in common as Capital Tech. That's okay now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't before. I think so many of us just used it so much that they finally capitulated.
I always just call it Cap Tech. So
yeah, Capital Tech. Yeah. So I'd approached the administration a couple of years ago about this idea that, hey, I think we should talk about how to collaborate to create a research institute so that, we can get real postdocs in either from our own doctorate programs or other places and whatever. And it sat and I bugged them. And finally, we have the new president. When he came in, I approached him and he was like, yeah, I mean, why don't we have this already? Well, okay. So it took a bit of work. I mean, obviously a bit of work because nothing existed as far as frameworks at the university to create these types of institutes. So we got that all created. We got all the intellectual property bylaws handled, and it's off the ground, man.
Nice.
We haven't really done anything yet, but I got my first part-time postdoc. Well, she's kind of like a pre-doc because she hasn't finished yet. But dude, I mean, if you think I went fast, Jesus Christ, this chick's amazing. It's ridiculous.
Which is this the one
Yes.
for the PhD program?
Yes.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Man.
First off was spot on.
Oh, it's ridiculously how good she is, man.
Yeah.
So we started working on a couple papers already that we'll push through the institute. I got a couple private donors. Maybe in a future episode we'll talk about like creating nonprofit institutes, and because man, I've had to figure out how to create like nonprofit budget projections and what qualifies as profit versus nonprofit and shit like that. I mean, so it's directly attached to the school, so I don't have to manage the actual IRS tax status myself. But I have to make sure everything's in line to give to the school so that, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's more about not fucking up than it is doing it right, I guess.
That's pretty much it. So, speaking of schooling, had my, we'll say, first stint over there at MIT.
Yeah. How'd that go, man?
It was pretty impressive. I mean, just, they had like basically they taught 2 courses there for us to give us kind of an intro as to what it would be like. Amazing. it's a private event. They only had about 150 people there,
Mhm.
that they selected. It was kind of interesting. You and I have kind of talked about this, growing up in that .com aspect, you know, um, always I was the youngest person there. And was I really that good? How did I really measure up against my peers type of thing? And, I always felt like that going into that next job. And in some ways, I kind of almost do this to myself on purpose because I like feeling like I'm the underdog. It's kind of like, the reason why the prize fighters, they find something to give them that edge. Um, and, here I am, I'm thinking about this, and the chair for the program says, as I'm thinking about it again, I've been kind of thinking about it before. I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am. I'm going to MIT at the MBA program in order to, I want to progress. I want to do more than just technology. I mean, the one thing that people put down, myself, and other technologists, like, oh, you don't know business. You're just a scientist. You're just, computer geek. You're just the secure this. So I'm like, all right, well, fine. Let me go to, I don't know, it's a arguably, top 10 in the world business program. In the United States, it goes anywhere from number 1 to number 5. But, fine. So I'm going, and the lady's like, many of you are probably, thinking that you're not good enough. This is called imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Rest assured, we didn't go and grab people off the streets. You were invited to this private event because your recruiters, the selection committee, believe you have the credentials to be here. You already have successful careers, and we believe that what you're looking to do next is something significant. And I'm going, yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking. Do I measure up? I mean, there's people there from big companies and done all this, and I always kind of diminish a little bit about what I've already done because I feel like I'm only as good as what I do next.
Yeah, and I think that's a fundamental difference between startups and big companies. I mean, even if you look at the not the hiring, but the promotion practices. My experience, and I'm assuming it's yours too. Typically, at a startup, you get promoted based on what you can do next, not what you've done.
Right.
And what that avoids is the Peter principle, which is you get promoted to your level of incompetence, which is exactly what happens at big companies. And part of it's because of the economy of scale, of size, and people, right? At a big company, we've both been at them. In my experience, people get promoted to their level of incompetence because they're only viewed as what they've accomplished, not what their potential is. And I think when you go to a selective program like MIT's, that's clearly what they're interested in. They're not in. I mean, what you've done gets you into the party, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what actually gets you through the party and successfully is what your potential is. And of course, I mean, look at it from their perspective. They want a safe bet, or at least a good bet. Because when people from that type of program go on and do great things, they're alumni, and
Yep.
that helps their name. It helps their annual gift giving,
Right. That's exactly what
and
it comes
everybody
down.
benefits, right?
Yeah, and it was impressive. I mean, the breakfast they put on, the lunch they put on, the little happy hour they put on afterwards, the teachers that were there. Um, I mean, these people aren't any joke.
Oh, they don't fuck around there, man. There
No,
ain't any fucking
no.
around. And it's Boston on top of it. I mean,
Yeah,
if there's ever a city in the US that doesn't fuck around, I mean, they have a good time, but they're pretty serious. It's Boston.
yeah, yeah. It was, you know, I'm in awe, and I was basically saying that. Actually, I'm not basically. I'm only applying to this program for right now. And if I don't get in this year, I'll apply again for next year. I might eventually go somewhere else, but right now it's there or nowhere. I'm putting all of my eggs into this basket.
I've had friends that were professors at MIT, and I've had some undergrad students go there for internships, like at the Lincoln Lab and shit like that. And over time, I've met people at conferences and stuff, and I've never heard anybody have really material bad things to say about their experience at MIT in any of those capacities. Whereas, I've met some people, for instance, that went to Harvard's MBA, or some other Ivy League schools, and it's not that they have complaints or they regret doing it, of course, right? But there's always something that's not there for them, it seems like.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it's a good choice. I mean, what can go wrong?
Yeah, I don't think much. I mean, I think what a lot of people when they hear Harvard, and they don't realize that Harvard's MBA program is more finance heavy.
Mhm.
When you take a look at University of Chicago, it's finance heavy. Wharton is finance heavy. So if you weren't looking to be the CFO or someone that was going to be driving revenue or getting into M&A work or working at a financial institution, then you don't want to go there. MIT is more like they have some finance classes, but they're more about organization, operations, and management. So, not to the person that's going to be working at Citibank or some big VC. It's about making sure the organization is running well, and you need to have a little bit of everything. And I think people forget, they forget that. You got to go to the one that's based on where you're looking to take your career, because that's the type of people you're going to be networking with.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you wanted to fly to a particular part of the country, you don't take a plane in the opposite direction, right? I mean, you'll get there
I'm not going
eventually.
to Florida to snowboard.
Yeah, I mean, you may find something somewhere eventually, but it's surely not efficient.
Right.
Well, and I think part of that focus too, man, is of the prestigious universities in the U.S., MIT tends to be a little more blue collar in its approach.
Yeah.
Being more of like a traditional.
Motto.
What's that?
That's their motto.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being
hands the mind.
right, and being more of a traditional polytechnic and hands-on, and what's interesting about MIT historically is they're super strong in theory, just as much obviously as they are in applied.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what they're looking for in out of the program, are people who can take research and apply it to make the world better.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was interesting. I mean, I'm hook, line, and sinker. I'm going all in. This is actually the longest I've ever been out of school in my adult life. It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. I can't believe it. So and if I don't, wherever I end up, then I'll go do something local. There's a lot of people that want me to go to the local school where I'm at. That's finance heavy. It's it's not like right now to me. It's I would consider Kellogg, which is Northwestern, because they have a management focus. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But
yeah, I mean, I'd probably pick Northwestern personally over Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, for me, absolutely.
I mean, first of all, they both have great names, so there's no difference really there, I think.
Yeah. Next, depends on where I go. I mean, because you and I have talked, which is kind of funny that you're heading out to North Carolina. I would love to be in the Raleigh area. Duke is on my list of schools that I would, potentially look to go to for the MBA, because they also focus on operations. But, I never want to stop learning. And what I'm gonna need you to change to be from a chicken farmer to start growing more things for beer and wine. So.
Oh wait, speaking of which, man, you'll love this one, dude. So
someone bought you a rooster already.
No. It made me think of I haven't announced this, and it's not public, but I'll make it public now. I'll scoop myself. So at Capital Tech, the faculty's growing, and it's growing not only in full-time, they've hired a few more people, but certainly in adjuncts. So finally, the notion came up that maybe we ought to formalize and create a faculty senate. Now, normally you have a faculty senate and they have an immense amount of power, right? Because typically the way an academy should work is that the administration works for the faculty, for the academics, not the other way around. So there's this idea of, let's try and get some more power and see what we can do to help this university grow. I don't know if you've been there lately, man, but dude, the dorms are like almost fully built, like
Really?
the outer structure.
No, last time I was there, it was at residency in the summer.
Oh yeah, no, dude. I mean, not only did they break ground and all that, but they have all the structure up. It's at a point now where they can work the whole winter without having to go outside. But anyway, So I think they started that 2 years ago, and I was kind of out of the mix. I didn't get involved. But elections came up. So guess who the vice president of the faculty senate is?
Did you run unopposed?
No. I had an opposition. In fact, my opposition was the current president.
Huh?
The current president, his term's up. That's why they're having elections. So
Oh,
he decided he didn't want to be president again, but he would run for vice president.
who is it?
Do you know Sandy Atunes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you ran against Sandy?
Yeah.
So who's the president then?
Um, the new one is Pam Opeka. Do you know her? She's a math professor.
I don't think so.
She does undergrad. I don't know if you've ever met her.
I don't think I've met her.
Yeah, she's good. I like her. We get along. But my platform is you have all these adjuncts. You have me remote, which isn't going to change. It might be less since I'm closer. But I'm not living there full time.
Right, sure.
Maybe it ought to be kind of good to have some teleconference
Yeah.
capability. I mean,
Oh, I don't know. How about Office 365?
yeah, well, find it. Yeah, we'll talk about that another time because whatever, man. So that's part of what I'm trying to do through the Brain Machine Grant. It indirectly. I mean, that has its own purpose and it's its own thing. But I'm going to try and spin some stuff off with telepresence robots.
Nice.
Yeah, and kind of force the school to adopt some. I mean, not teleconference, maybe not even necessarily in this sense, but even this is
Like Johnny Five, and then your face will be on there.
Yeah, you got it, man. Well, and there was a grant to do that I submitted for last year, but at that time the school had somebody that managed the grant process that left in the middle of that process, so the grant never got submitted. But it was specifically to buy telepresence robots and experiment with them in education.
That would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
So you would literally have instead of it being a drone, but the iPad facing out, your face on it, going around, oh hi, and then the robot, arm, the Johnny Five robot.
Yeah, man, I was gonna get like some death metal T-shirts and put them on.
Yeah.
Have that thing blasting some black metal while it's rolling around. Man, did you ever see the YouTube video of this dude? Classic fuck up, real quick, and then we'll talk about the UFC tonight because it's pretty.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for this dude. He tried to do the right thing and he built these robots and he let them be not only wirelessly interacted with, but he hooked it up to the public internet and he like put it on Twitch or some shit, right? And like he's talking to these people and they're driving the robots around his house like they're pets. And he's like, well, listen, guys, I gotta go get some milk or some shit. And he leaves, and the second the door closes, somebody comes on the robot and says, all right, people, let's burn this motherfucker down. And they destroy his apartment. Destroy it.
Oh.
I mean, they're driving these robots and knocking tables over and crushing them.
Oh, man.
And the dude comes back. Let's call it a half hour later or something, right? And he can't even get into his apartment because they blocked the goddamn door. And he comes in, and you can see the camera on his face because he has cameras everywhere, right? And you can see the look on his face like he cannot believe what these people just did to him. I mean, the second that door closes, somebody control the robot says, let's burn this motherfucker down.
And this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So anyway, the 4-time, soon to be the 5-time vice president, director. What else am I going to add? Dude, I'm telling you, I'm running for local government in North Carolina. And I'm on a platform of there's no more North and South Carolina. This is the Carolina. And we're going to be the next superpower.
See, now that might work because then you could have the 2 Carolinas merge into one state. And it's okay if California goes into 3 because 52, we could wind up making that work on the flag.
That's right.
53 just doesn't work.
I'm going to run on a platform of just balancing equations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and look, man, I mean, people get upset about it, but I'm being serious. They should already be used to it because what's the name of the football team? The Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
It's not even plural. It's not Carolina's Panther. It's not possessive. It's singular. Carolina. That means there's one. Let's unify. I don't think they want to get back into a North-South debate. That didn't work out too well the last time.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Speaking of red blue, do you want to talk about the UFC tonight?
Yeah,
What is it? 217, I think it is.
yeah, something like that.
The return after 4 years off of George St. Pierre.
Yeah, he's gonna do the same thing he always does. He will not stand with Bisping. That would be a big mistake. And if I just don't know that GSP can keep Bisping down. I think he's going to take him down. I just don't know if he can keep him down. He's given up a lot of weight.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and Bisping's structurally bigger, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I like GSP. I think he's a humble guy. But I also like Michael Bisping's, Bisping has only really lost to people who have been on TRT and have failed drug tests. I can't think of a person he's lost to that wasn't in one of those two categories.
True. I mean, but we don't know if he was himself. I mean, he's certainly never been caught. But here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Beyond the MMA math that people like to perform, like on Reddit and shit. Here's what I'm pardon me. Here's what I'm curious about. And nobody's answered this, although I've heard like Dan Hardy asked this on the breakdown. Why did George St. Pierre pick him? Because
it's the reason why Randy Couture picked Tim Silva back in the day.
Yeah. Well, and nobody really gave Randy a chance either.
Nope. And GSP probably does see something that he can beat Michael Bisping. And I think it's because, I mean, look, GSP is arguably the best wrestler in the UFC. He just takes down people, and he doesn't have a wrestling background. He's able to get you down, and there's not a person that has been able to stop his double leg takedowns.
No. And what's interesting, man, is it's a good style matchup. It's a good fighter matchup because, I mean, Bisping's bigger, but he's not significantly bigger. I mean, like if you made the Randy Couture Tim Sylvia comparison, dude, it was David and Goliath. I mean, it was a massive difference. It just Tim Sylvia sucked and he was slow as fucking molasses.
Yeah.
And Randy was smart and fast and had power. But anyway, so they're similar size. They actually have really similar statistics, like in the number of strikes landed, the number of takedowns, number of takedown defenses. But here's the thing. George St. Pierre, after winning the title back from Matt Serra, started absolutely to fight smarter, which produced a safer fight. But I don't think he ever set out to be safe. I think he set out to be smart. So him and his team I think are inarguably the best team in MMA still. With Firas Zahabi and those guys. I mean, they're really tactical in their implementation of the fight game itself. So I wonder what they saw. I mean, Bisping is just kind of a journeyman. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's a workhorse, right? He's a blue collar English workhorse. Nothing special. He's not a great athlete. He doesn't have a ton of power. He doesn't have a ton of anything. He just is there. You know what I mean?
Well-rounded in every area. Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, and I guess if anything, he does have an extreme amount of willpower and heart.
Sure. So I mean, yeah, to your point of GSP and his team, you can't stop his takedown.
No,
it's not like he was ever inactive when he got you on the ground. I mean, he was moving you into the cage, beating you up, and just giving you 5 rounds of ground and pound.
Yeah.
I mean, if he weighed as much as Tito Ortiz, he would be stopping people. There's a big difference when you weigh, coming in at, 205 for lightweight. So they're walking around at 260 probably, right? So when someone like that is dropping elbows on you, it does significant more damage than a guy walking around at 175, 180 pounds. It's a huge difference. So they had the same fight. So why is it that the fans love Tito Ortiz style, but not GSP? Well, because Tito Ortiz was stopping people.
Yeah. And he was the Huntington Beach bad boy. I mean, I was never a Tito fan, and I'm still not.
I love Tito Ortiz. I think
it doesn't surprise me because you like Bisping too.
I do like Michael Bisping. I mean, I like I like the aspect of out there is I'm going to win. I mean, it's no different than why I like Conor McGregor.
Well, we
I'm
can
going
agree
to
on
be,
that. I mean, we like Connor for the same reasons.
yeah. It's that confidence of going in there and like you're not going to beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Like people can say whatever they want about the Mayweather McGregor fight. If McGregor fought nonstop for 3 years, I think he would be an unbelievable boxer. That's just his mentality. He's got to change the way he throws a punch because it's different in boxing than it is in MMA. But I think that he would be able to survive. And Mayweather could have destroyed him much sooner.
He went much longer than most people thought he would ever go. I mean,
yeah.
in that, particularly, I think in the second round, I was watching, and I was thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, he might actually get him. Like McGregor might actually get him. But I mean, but you have to admire it really for what it was, in my opinion, which was a dude that's never fought a professional boxing fight, talked himself into a fight with, I think, inarguably the best boxer of all time, and it made bank.
Yeah, I mean, he probably made $100 million.
Oh, to the point now where he's telling the UFC, "Fuck you! If you want me to fight, you got to let me co-promote,
co-brand." Yeah, co-brand. He doesn't need the money anymore. No. He does not need it. He is set for life.
Well, and so just to wrap this thought up, not the conversation with this thought, because I don't want to forget it. Let's not forget, everybody, that the reason the UFC never got Fedor was because of M1 Global.
Yeah.
And they wanted to co-promote, and the UFC was against it. So is Dana White and WME, IMG, whatever the fuck their name is now, gonna risk another Fedor situation where you have at that time, the best heavyweight of all time?
I think it's different now, though. The UFC back then, their brand wasn't that powerful. Now it is.
Yeah, well, right. So, but this is interesting because they have more power as a brand. They're certainly bigger, but they also have a star problem. I mean, Ronda's fucking irrelevant. Did you see that cringy shit she did for WWE?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, no, she's gonna go be a big time wrestler now, man. It was the
it would be good for her.
Yes. It was fucking horrible, man. Oh my god.
I didn't see it.
No, but anyway, she's gone. John Jones is irrelevant because he just can't straighten himself out.
I don't even know what to do.
Try to promote Mighty Mouse?
What's that?
I mean, and what are they going to do? Try and promote Mighty Mouse? After Dana White said that he was going to close the division down?
No one cares about a 120-pound fighter.
No, listen, he is great. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time, skill-wise. Absolutely.
Sure.
But
no one cares about a 120-pound fighter. That's just what it comes down to. Because people go, he's 120 pounds.
I mean, so I don't know, man. I mean, but now you got GSP back, right? So if he wins and gets a belt, that creates some narrative. But anyway, what are you going to do with Connor? I mean, he's your only legitimate money generator at this point.
You basically, here's the thing. You do whatever Connor wants until Connor doesn't bring in the gate.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. You have to as a business because they don't have a star. Mm-mm. Now, that doesn't mean they may not have one again at some point in the future, but today that's their only star because John Jones can't stay clean.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so I don't know if you want to talk about TJ Dillashaw and Cody, but
oh yeah, of course I do.
All that drama.
I like Cody No Love too.
For the record, I don't like any of those guys. None of them on either side of this whole bullshit. They all remind me of like low rent, seedy, scummy frat brothers. Like those are the frat brothers that you don't even want to acknowledge are in the frat.
Now, do you just not like anyone from TAM, or was it just those two?
Oh no, all of them. I don't like any of them. None of them.
None.
Zero.
Not even the California Kid.
Nope, never did.
Really?
Zero. I don't like the women that are associated with TAM. Paige Van Zant, all these people. No, man. No, I just don't dig it. I don't dig their vibe. I don't dig their approach to the game. And I don't think any of them are good. I mean, I don't think any of them are actually really good.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, I'm not a fan of TJ Dillashaw. I've never have been. Um, you know, Cody certainly put Gilbert Melendez there to shame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who would have thought he would have schooled him that badly?
True.
And did. But I kind of like Cody. I like that. I like the aspect that he's taken an underprivileged kid that I think he's got Down syndrome, and whose family basically, this is what came out in the previous fight. From that, he winds up basically being his big brother. So I was like, all right, as a human being, you seem to at least have some worth. Or that was just the UFC, putting that out there. But I kind of like that.
Well, let me tell you something, man. I don't know how long he lived there, but I know he was born and grew up in Uricksville, Ohio. And Uricksville, Ohio is basically the West Virginia of Northeast Ohio.
Oh,
it's a
great.
Bunch of jacked up truck, mudding, four-wheeling, slack jawed.
Oh, that's great.
I grew up not in there, but aware of it tangentially. Now they always did produce a lot of really good wrestlers. I'll give them that. But past that, there was nothing really to talk about at Uricksville.
Nice.
No, it's irrelevant, man. I mean,
I think
the West Virginia of Northeast Ohio. That's a good way to think about it.
There is nothing in Ohio that makes me want to go to Ohio.
What about Ohio State?
There's nothing in Ohio that makes me want to go to Ohio.
Man, it'd been so long.
Cleveland does not rock.
It used to, man. I mean,
when? Not in my lifetime.
It had a good nightlife for a while. Speaking of Cleveland, man, I'd flown back to see my parents to help my dad with some medical stuff, and I flew into Cleveland, which I normally don't do. And it'd been years and years and years since I'd been back to Ohio to begin with. Jesus Christ, man. I couldn't believe, first of all, how small it was.
The airport?
Yeah.
Well, because no one wants to go to Ohio. It's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, except for Columbus and really Ohio State. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just, we're no longer a manufacturing country.
No.
And we were doing a ton of manufacturing out of there at one point.
Yeah, and especially in Cleveland with auto manufacturing.
Yeah. We just, I mean, I think we need to get back to manufacturing, but the only way that happens if you get rid of the labor unions.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's be more abstract but specific at the same time.
Yeah, let's automate it with robots.
Well, let's get rid of minimum wage.
I agree. I think the market will decide. If you're good, the minimum wage means nothing. If you're good, people will pay you.
Yeah.
You can always say no.
And the market will decide what a true minimum wage really should be.
Yeah.
And guess what? The price of goods will adjust.
Yep. Absolutely.
Instead of artificially creating money, right, through a central bank, that is just irrelevant because of inflation anyway.
Agreed, 100%. We should definitely do more of a political show one time just to get these things out, because I'm sure other people are thinking it, but it's not politically correct to talk about removing the minimum wage. But if they don't understand that the market will decide.
Mm-hmm.
If you put in good work, all it takes is someone else wanting to offer you more money. You're only as worth as much as someone is willing to pay you.
Yeah. Well, but that it's a true value. It's not artificially inflated. Yeah, and it's not artificially kept inflated by the adjustment of an interest rate, which is arbitrary in of itself anyway, because we're not talking about real value to begin with.
Yeah.
Whereas if my employer's not forced to pay me something, they're only going to pay me as much as they need to keep me from going somewhere else, as long as I have value for them.
That's right. I take the Starship Troopers approach. For those that don't know, it's a better book than it is a movie, but the movie wasn't too bad. Essentially, I tell people, The job is yours until you die, or I find someone better than you.
Yeah. Well, it's counterintuitive. I think people react negatively to the idea of removing minimum wage because they think you don't like poor people or some shit. But it's actually the opposite. I love poor people. I love human beings, and I don't want anybody to be poor. And I think people are poor because of artificially inflated wages that produce wage slavery.
Yep.
For me, it's that simple. If you truly like a free market and capitalism in the way that we have it as a republic, then why do you want a minimum wage? Why do you want government telling anybody what they need to do that way? I don't.
Agreed. Well, I think we've come to our time slot.
Yes.
We probably just had everyone cut out when we started talking political. Like, what does it have to do with technology? Because we can replace all of those minimum wage workers with machines.
Well, and it's going to be. It's already happening. It's been happening since the 80s. It just kind of comes in fits and starts. But look, I mean, we sent a lot of work overseas because it was cheaper. But guess what? They started having minimum wage too. So their demands rose, and you keep moving it around. And eventually the only answer is automation, and it's coming. And if we don't do it first, somebody else is, right? As a nation state. So,
oh, absolutely.
I'd rather be ahead of the curve.
Always ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Sweet, man. That's episode 42.
Which answers everything.
That's right. I think we'll do this next week. Yeah.
Yeah. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel.
All right.
That the Saturdays seem to work well for me at that 12:30 time slot.
You mean 9:30?
So, well, soon you'll be on the correct time zone again.
True. This is going to be a lot easier to keep shit straight. Yeah. So we'll have maybe like a UFC recap. Who won, why they won. There'll be more fuckery in the news to talk about with whether it's a breach or, this current administration's anti-science stance particularly with the environment. I don't know why people have such an axe to grind with the planet. Like, what the fuck did it ever do to you?
Oh, I do have to mention one thing that we haven't said.
Yeah.
Because our prediction was correct. Equifax breach is the first breach that a CIO was fired. All those people out there talking about their predictions, not one of them had the essentially fortitude to say a CIO was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Equifax CIO ousted. And anyone that wanted to talk about their degrees, music degrees, whatever, that does not matter to me at all.
Oh, we'll talk. We got to talk about that because people have it twisted, and I'll give you the literature to back that up.
Yep. So,
all right, guys.
I was gonna say our predictions were correct.
That's right. That's a very good point to end on, man. We'll pick up on that next week. We'll talk about the UFC. Maybe we'll talk about humanities and liberal arts degrees for cyber people.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
All right, everyone.
Peace. Have a good week, everybody. Later.